Okay. I mean, I like that we were talking about macro and stuff, and you were like, you know, those death fans, extremely important at the end of the day.
I say what I see.
You've
That's what
gotta
I'm
be
here
cool.
for.
Yeah, no, you're basically a 7-year-old. It's fine. Heading over to our angle at the moment, we're going to go straight into this map. We're looking at a plane path coming over the top of Stalbert down towards Quarry here, towards Primos. So fairly decent plane path for a lot of these players. You know, that eastern side of the map will be open, as so will down towards Gatka's side. And a lot of teams do drop towards this central area of the map, including Mad Bull's Box Game. You had a few scuffles in this area too, being able to hold on to Rozok for quite some time. DRS, a lot of fans for this team. I mean, it's a long-standing team. They've got some very cool players in there. We saw Delta able to do some cool stuff over on Sandhawk yesterday. Not quite able to bring up some massive games, but certainly still in with the running.
Yeah, I mean, the DRS, they've had a second place game with 3 eliminations, a fourth place game with 4 eliminations as well. In general, they haven't been loud, but they have been trying to eke their way through a couple of times. We've yet to see that real big performance from them. I think the highest elimination count they got was 4 in game number 2, where they finished 7th. So it really hasn't been a particularly loud game, as you say, but they are keeping themselves in that middle pack, in that survival stage bracket.
Look at some other teams towards that bottom side, though, in the bottom 5 of the overalls, in which case you will be going home at the end of these 4 days in Group Red. We're looking at 4 rivals, I8, R8, the Infinity, and Team K. So I think the Infinity is certainly a team that should not be aiming to end here at all, and I think could bring up their score points today, considering how well this team has performed in the past. Similarly, I8 and R8 don't feel like they should be this far down, but the Infinity with 16 points, that really does need to be a number that is improved today. And if it doesn't get improved today, you know, I'm not looking forward to the prospects of the future for the Infinity, honestly.
We're looking at S2G as well on our screens, and whilst you highlighted the teams that currently are in the bracket, S2G only sit 2 points ahead of that, right? Then this is, again, a team that needed to prove that they deserve to be here after their performance in the European Championship. They qualified on PMGC points, and for the time being, I've still yet to see that spark that led them to the top of those point tables overall in the PMGC. Hopefully, they will start to turn that up today. We know they like to be aggressive early, and they do have some high elimination games. I mean, first 2 games put together, they got 14 eliminations over those 2 games. But for the rest of the day, they were just a lot more quiet. They didn't really have that same impact. So hopefully, they can regain some of that strength.
Yeah, the issue for a team like S2G at the moment is because these circles are getting larger towards the end game, you know, there's much more space to be playing within. I think S2G likes to take up a lot of room within these circles when they were a lot smaller and be able to play out from there. But now, because there's so many teams backfilling them, they're taking shots at so many teams, it's a little bit harder for them to carve out their own little piece of land in these circles. So I think, you know, it is that case of aggression is great when it brings you those elimination points, but also it's mainly used just to get you into a position that can be a winning formation, right? At the moment, it feels like they're aggressive for aggression's sake, which is leading to them being shot at by multiple separate teams towards that end game. And with these matches going on for now 30 minutes now, it's not good enough to get towards that 22 minutes and lose 1 player and then start to get harassed by a lot of teams. You still have 8 minutes to go at that point in time. And with 5 teams alive, 8 minutes can be a long, long time to try and stay in that top 5 bracket.
I mean, we're seeing 5 teams alive in the final circle, right? As you're talking about, which is kind of crazy in terms of that change. So you're right; those teams will need to figure it out, get on board. No super hot drops. We saw a little bit of a close call between R8 and S2G there early, but they were just grabbing those vehicles, investing that time to get that mobility. With the circle heading northwest, though, they're both in the next phase. I'm looking at Box right now on the south side, blank. They're camping on the Western Bridge. Well, not camping, but they're currently situated around the Western Bridge, gathering that loot. With 2 teams on the military island, that could prove to be a little bit of a sticking point.
Yeah, and I mean, it's difficult either way, IA or DRS go, right? I think for DRS, there may be a potential that they're able to pick up a vehicle in terms of a boat and head towards the mainland, maybe dropping towards the yellows on that western coast. But neither side is really open, and they'd have to wait for quite some time before they head up towards this initial circle. Titans over towards Milter and Farm. They'll be holding in the lighthouse. And you've also got Box towards the actual gas station itself, which gives you some great sight lines as teams trying to exit from that western Eastern Bridge. So I think for DRS and I8, it might be a little while before they can start thinking about heading towards the circle, waiting for potentially Box or Titans themselves to move. The Infinity might backfill onto Titans, in which case, there's another team there now on the Eastern Bridge. Either way, it's a difficult decision for I8 as well as DRS going forward.
Over to the Mad Bulls on their southwest side. Just picking up that loot, sweeping it clean. No one really going to be moving through this area. Potential for Box to maybe try and swing out to the west. Maybe if IA or DRS manage to get across that bridge, they might swing out that way, but Mad Bulls should be ahead of the curve. LGD, they were playing in South George. They actually sent 2 players north of the river as well to challenge out R8's route out of the city in North George on that eastern side. So if they get caught unawares, could be a little bit problematic. It looks like they're going for that regroup as well, a little bit closer together. So holding that bridge on the western side could stop some teams trying to move in through there and trying to get to the north side of the river through that route.
If you've been able to watch the maps from yesterday as these players, you will know that R8 is playing this position, in which case LGD can move north, hold out R8, and them knowing that, Zaki, as well as shooting range towards that northern sides, is pretty much clear over than Team Queso and Severny. They can cut off that rotate from R8, clear out that team. They have a ton of space now to play with, and they can just ideally watch down towards Everest, watch down towards crates as teams come through, pick up a ton of information. That does rely off the back of being able to hold out R8, get a couple of knocks early on, because if they do get into an extended engagement on this side, a lot of their attention is now focused towards Zaki, which is unideal when most of the teams are going to be probably coming from that eastern side of the circle. On the other hand, Mad Bulls, down towards Primorsk, pretty much their typical drop spot for the entirety of the Western European Championships, as well as PMPL Western Europe. I think that you look at this and you're happy to see it. You wonder if it's the case because we did have the plane path heading from Stalba down to Primorsk, that they decided to head here instead of taking a weird split between school and apartments. Again, this is back to basics for Mad Bulls, and knowing there's not a lot of people taking space on this western side could be some easy rotates for them.
Influence Kemen at the moment, just chilling out on the north side of the river with a split between half of the teams of Team Queso there. They're currently north and south of their position on the north side of the river. Mad Bulls making that move. Zerich will be scouting forwards for the team, giving them a lovely little hillside to move through. A knock over towards Team Queso. That's bad for business, as Influence Kemen, I believe, have spotted them. They should be able to just get that res and get back on their merry way. Ooh, okay. Jumped the gun a little bit there, but no harm, no foul. We'll slow them down a bit.
Yeah, I think it was a self-knock from Streams there. And I don't know whether it was because he was jumping out of the vehicle or just changing seats to try and take shots back towards Influence Kemen. Either way, he does drop out of the vehicle and skids his knees against the grass, which we all know is very, very painful. Does get knocked because of it. I do wonder how much it was Influence Kemen actually playing into that that caused that knock, but we'll see. It does massively slow down Team Queso, as you said, with Ayala, as well as Papi Potro heading up towards the northern side of shooting range. Now they need to head back down south with this circle centering up in the middle. Yeah, it's getting quite flustered for a lot of these teams now, especially with the river moving through the middle.
Taking some shots. Not entirely sure what there. We're spinning it around. I think you had the vehicles moving in. MTech Storm on the top side of Everest, with Monkey scouting it out for Mad Bulls. They'll know there's players there with Taman rocking up in the buggy, but they're happy to sit on that southwest side. The river split right now, horrible for a lot of these teams, but Everest should be a little bit of sanctuary for the time being.
It's a decent place to play, I think, for Mad Bulls, because they're coming in from that western side. They're getting held out by most teams, so this will be a bit of a slog to actually move through. But we'll see how they make it happen. They're already sending Zarek out wide, which is fair play. Get him down towards the southern side of Everest, pick up some compounds, maybe a position to play later on. I think Mad Bulls are realizing it's maybe not worth their time trying to push through here, considering they have further to go, and taking a fight versus MTech Storm on top of Everest is just going to be a long, long while going. That's what I assumed happened, yeah. That's an accidental press on the exit button, if ever I've seen one.
Okay, yeah, that is unideal. And then the missed res as well. There was a couple of missteps from Team Queso. Maybe it's a little bit of nerves sitting at the bottom of the table. They feel a lot of pressure, and why wouldn't you? Titan at the moment, though, putting pressure on S2G over in Ruins. Not really finding too many knocks. Silas with high ground off angle. Ooh, a lot of shots over towards 6, but back into the buggy, backs it up. Neither team taking knocks yet.
I mean, Silas has currently got a really, really good position. Gives you a lot of oversight to practically most of the teams rotating through this area. Also playing along that veranda is just really, really fun, considering there's a lot of separate angles you can take of it with the actual wall dipping up and down. It's an interesting position to play. You can get caught off if a team like tries to go very, very wide, in which case there's no walls on your side, so it's just easy to take shots at you. So I think Silas moves back after getting a little bit of influence from that position.
Buradam moving in on the north side, to the north side of influence, Kemen. Just south of shooting range right now, moving around, gathering intel around these hills. They can chill out for the time being. They should be able to spot a couple of the vehicles that Influence Kemen have been using. As the next circle soon to pop. Team Queso moving in behind R8 on that northwestern side. There's a little bit of a scrap there, and SK-Tone goes down to Papi Potro. Nice little spray and a flush as well. Prestige nowhere near, certainly not near enough to answer that call. The circle pops, and again, it keeps a lot of this river split in blank. People are going to have to make decisions that they're uncomfortable with at this stage.
I think at this point in time, it's not so bad, to be quite honest with you, because this circle is going to continue to center up here, John. In which case, Ruins is becoming more and more of a hotspot.
Bit of a close call here between Aegon X I8 and Titans. Actually, the first knocks go through to I8. We'll find 1 and 2. A really good start, but hang on a minute, someone's lighting them up. It's coming through from S2G, in fact, who are chiming in as a third party to this crash. 2 players already down for Titans, leaving Teak and Puncher, the last 2 standing. The 6 is going to get flushed out here. No way that you survive this one. You've got to hit that spray. He's just there. Okay, there you go. Finally, third time's a charm.
Yeah, struggling sure just a little bit, honestly, but yeah, finally finds him. Titan struggling also. I think for S2G, they've got a great position in Castle.
They really do. It's a really solid oversight position, as you were talking about earlier. It controls so many of those rotates and those areas coming through that people are going to really want to control. LGD's split in the meantime on that northwestern side that they took up very, very early is coming back to pay dividends. They've currently still got a 2-2 split, and they are controlling vital points of the map for potential progression in these next couple of phases. Bigatron suffering to the rundown from Buradam right now, losing one of their players, which is far from ideal, but the north side will still be treacherous. The land mass is shrinking as well on that north side of the river, so they're going to have to make that call. Do we head all the way south? Do we try and crash? Or do we just get pressured by the circle and play that edge on the north?
I think for LGD, taking this 2-2 split as well is really interesting. I mean, it gives them options either way. But again, it's very much Chinese gameplay, honestly, coming through and covering all your bases, playing these 2-2 splits, very typical of China. But I think with the way these new circle settings are happening, this is more than likely going to continue to center up down towards Ruins, over towards Everest. And S2G will still have a firm chokehold over the remainder of this circle. I would be interested to see if there is any hard shifts that come through that might be massively influential. We do get smaller circles at this point in the game, but even if we did get one heading over towards the east, John, that, as you mentioned earlier, would cause some pretty drastic decisions having to be made here.
Infinity spotted on the top of the hill as they rock up on the 4 rivals downed player. Loki already down, will not be rezzed here. There's no way that 4 rivals can strike out to this. They can't leave this position in sunken as the circle does come through. It does isolate the south side of the river, but it goes right on top of S2G. And again, their powerhouse will continue to reign over this circle.
Yeah, it's a great spot to be in, and I think for Silas, maybe at this point in time, it's a decision whether to just leave this compound alone and perhaps head up to one of his teammates over on this side. I think you can be pretty comfortable with where Hamzy G as well as Razy are currently playing. This would be a good spot to regroup on, a lot of high ground to play around from that castle position too. You still want to control as much as possible. For the next maybe 2 to 3 minutes, getting that information, maybe taking shots at some of these teams. But as more and more players move in towards the circle, more sightlines are going to be opened up, John.
Ralph gets sprayed down there as DRS holding out. Enigma Galaxy somehow lose that player on the forwards. I mean, it looked like DRS were going to lose their swing out from Delta, but no, didn't go that way. Smoke's now blooming. Delta can put those nades over towards that smoke, that cloud that is currently holding Ralph, and Lord will feel the brunt of it, falls down as well. Another nade to follow it up, sprays from Hamodi through the smoke. This is second place team Enigma Galaxy taking on DRS right now in the middle of the pack. We said we wanted to see a bit of a louder game from them. Is this going to be it? Free. A lot of damage, but not finding the final blow to rules. In the blue zone, though, it could tick away. Is dangerous and will be crunched in. Reload forced back into the vehicle, and you need to get on your bike. Hamodi falls, and DRS are doing a lot of work in the early game.
This is looking pretty good. Again, though, they are stuck on the southwest edge. Rules not quite made his way in. You did see Freak taking some fantastic shots down towards him, but finally starts to move in the circle. With Lord down, as well as Hamodi being flushed, it's just Freak to send on for Enigma Galaxy here. One of the few times we've seen Enigma Galaxy in such dire straits towards this point of the game. Does a front flip as well. You can tell the pressure's getting to him just slightly in S2G. He's directly in the sightlines now.
Always gets out, but just doesn't quite hit the deck in time. Freak falls, and with it, Enigma Galaxy's hopes of getting any points in this game. No eliminations, going out in 16th. That's a 0 tally. With the circle moving south, Influence Kemin did strike out towards that middle island in the river, and they are controlling Buradam, who have just been skulking on this northern side, harassing the back of Bigatron, as well as Influence Kemin in the meantime. But finally, it looks like they're able to open up on the cylinders and burn away at Buradam's backstock. Crash down from Kangzo. My name in the shack. Or the Gitoon, as Max likes to say. Little boy moving on up. Closest player for Influence Kemin right now. LGD yet to regroup on the south side of the river, but they might be looking over this way. A nade in finds My Name. And Buradam really suffering. They've managed to move players down south. You can see them in the river right now. So they're playing a little bit of swimmy game. The Sky only did manage to get across a little bit earlier. Covering with smoke. Staying alive for now.
I think for Influence Kemin, though, this is a little bit of a Hail Mary staying on this side of the station points, catching the stragglers, but at some point you will have to move down towards S2G's position, and that means going out into the blue on that eastern side, as you can see, or just crossing the river. And either way, because Buram's got there first, even with the two players in Kengso as well as Sky, Influence Kemin are going to be suffering to the hands of a lot of these teams watching their rotate. They can maybe cross towards the river on that western side as well, but again, LGD is waiting for that. So I think that Influence Kemin's kind of backed themselves into a corner here. That's also unfortunate with Zerich nading effect. Not sure what happened on that side of the map.
Hopefully they can get it all back together. They are all alive at this stage. We have seen when the Ruins team's attention is turned southwards, you can kind of push up that coastline underneath the castle. It's got a lot of cover if you're not being looked at, right? From that specific area. You can get up there, and once you're there, you can put nades up top. But it is really luck of the draw on the timing on that rotation. So if LGD have to move in early, Influence Kemin might have that opening. Crash coming through from DRS on towards Box's position. They've already taken down Break on the top floor, but Delta is low. They're looking to put more nades and more damage on in around the side. A nade cooked from Bensu. Wants to put another one in, but thinks better of it. Pulls the gun back out. There's players on that ridgeline as well from DRS. They're closing in towards Box. They're currently outside the circle as it moves on in. With Breakdown, they don't have that forward stop. Scry, low, burnt out by Rules' Molotov, and a nade to follow it up. Box down to 2 now on this crash as DRS really starting to turn up the heat here. Black Killer swings in with a crash on the buggy to move into the second building of the compound. Bensu out through the smoke. Plays Smoke Warrior. Ninja back into the smoke. And away he goes. Killer down first for DRS. Trismay and Bensu, the duo for Box, looking to hold it on out as Delta crashes on forwards now. Wants to put pressure on, will be able to flood in through the door and will find the ankle. Sweep the leg, and with it, the second player falls. A nice 1-2 by DRS, white Box.
A pretty damn good push as well. I think Bensu was really the only one from Box actually able to do anything in that situation. The rest of Box just kind of allowed DRS to get as far up as they did with some good grenades sent through the windows to delay any kind of rotates, any shots coming through from the windows themselves. Overall, a nice play from DRS. It did hamper them. They did suffer for it. But now, because they've got the majority of that space down towards the southwest side, it's happy days for them. Influence Kemen, on the other hand, actually made it across the water somehow, some way, and have eliminated at least one of the Buriram players. I think there might be one more left. No, there isn't. They're completely out. So this is an unbelievable, almost impossible push made happen by Influence Kemen. And they still have all 4 players alive. This should not be possible.
With LGD moving away into this engagement, they were given that opening, right? Mad Bulls now, only with Zerich left as LGD are putting the pain down. Out in the open field, Zerich really not in a position to get a teammate back here, so it is going to be solo play. DRS might be looking at sweet. Look at that scout out from Rules, just isolating some of the ground. They know they're right on the edge and will have to move, so they're getting some of those springboard positions for themselves. Still the raid boss of S2G sit atop the ruins. Is the next circle about to come through?
More than likely going to see this move slightly away from ruins, but in fact, we do get a shift up towards that northwest side, in which case Kelsey and Silas have a really good position to hold on to. And because they were so dominant in their hold there and so many teams were crashing against one another, it's allowed them to hold this 2-2 split for a long time with a lot of control as well. So you might even see them just hold on to this for even longer with the amount of open ground around this position. S2G could play this one all the way out, and this is what you want to see. I am worried if this is going to be an S2G special, in which case, you know, they get a big game at the start of the day and then slowly fall off throughout. But if that's what it takes to get them into those positions, to get in towards that survival stage, I don't mind it so much. It's going to be a little bit squeaky going into the grand finals if they can make it. But again, this is all a little bit too early to tell.
I mean, this is the rotation I was talking about earlier for Influence Kemen, where they come up underneath that castle. The sightlines were not being controlled by S2G. They should know there's players there now. They'll hear those footsteps, but they've allowed a massive threat to appear on their doorstep that they'll have to be constantly worried about. Look at the damage over to Razy and Hamzy already. A Molotov there goes a little bit too long, doesn't quite land on the inside. That one a little bit shorter. Don't think it quite landed, but S2G, they're just leaving. They're allowing Influence Kemen one of the strongest positions in the circle.
I mean, this is right on the edge, so there is high ground available, and leaving this position is difficult, as you can see from Razy as well as Silas. Silas somehow lives with a various amount of HP here. For S2G, I think it should have been a regroup coming in a lot earlier, or at least controlling this position of the map. Again, you leave these 2 players here to specifically control the coastal side. And I'll say it again because it is 100% true. This is an impossible push coming through from Influence Kemen. This should not have happened from the very beginning of the game. LGD shouldn't have allowed this to come through. Buriram shouldn't have been allowing anyone to swim all the way across that water. It is a miracle that Influence Kemen have got this far, and honestly also a testament to their skill.
Kajowski left as a backstop for them, but 3 players forward. Spray down from Reyes. He's been so accurate on these sprays, taking 1v3s. We've seen it from him yesterday. It looks like it's a repeat performance today. 2 players already fall to the barrel with backup from Papi Potro. Suki last standing now for the squad. 5 eliminations for Team K, so nades start to go through, and that's going to do the dirty. Papi Potro gets the last on the nade. 6 eliminations as LGD hit the dust.
7 elims on the game for LGD, but it's not quite enough for them to finish out of the top scorer. Now Influence Kemen continue to put the pressure over towards S2G, who are desperately trying to make their way across the rocks. Hamzy G left forward with some smokes as cover, but that's about it. You'd assume that the circle would move away from Influence's Kemen position, though. And giving that up to them, S2G might be able to regroup over towards Silas and Razy, who did move down to provide support. I like that. Now it's a case of just making sure that Influence Kemen have a very tough time leaving this building, leaving this compound.
Chizzy holding out against the Infinity as forward position for MTech Storm. Logan Low, drop shot is there, but does get traded out. Forward position from Tizzy, isolated. MTech Storm left with just the one at the back as as the Infinity are going to be holding out for now. All of them are alive, but they're right on the edge of the circle. The circle centers on towards S2G, and DRS are pushing in from the south.
Yeah, and more importantly, it moves away from the castle. So in this case, Influence Kevin will have to leave. You wonder how many smokes they've had to use to get to this position in the first place, and how many more they'll have to use to get out of it. But S2G, I think they know where their sight lines need to be pointed at, where the barrels need to be sent, which is over towards Influence Kevin's position as they move down out of the castle. If they can eliminate that threat, everything becomes so much easier, because everything around this position is kind of spotty cover, and a lot of open ground for S2G to play around with.
Got some nice sightlines, as you say, Razy. Lighting them up, letting them know this is our town. A lot of bullets being put down range there by Kelsey, but only suppressing fire over towards Aegon AI. Oh, there you go, Aegon I8. Silas sightlines up to DRS, who are pushing in from that southwest side. They've had a louder game than they've had so far in this entire tournament, Blank, and that's exactly what we said we wanted to see.
Doing pretty well of it. It's not been extremely easy for them as well, having to push through teams like Box from inside their compound and getting a successful push on that. S2G's trying to keep.
Oh,
goodness me, Delta with a triple. So saying S2G's trying to keep two players watching over towards Influence Kevin's position, but they've allowed them to move a little far forward. 10 eliminations found for DRS. Fantastic game from them.
Top 6 as well, already guaranteed, with Aegon XIA almost certainly going down very soon. Newsy falling with Mela, the last for the Infinity. There is a real big chance of laddering up quite significantly if they can stay alive. They are currently on the edge of the circle. They can regroup as long as those smokes last. They will be able to stop those sightlines, and Influence Kemen will have to push in, maybe drawing some attention away. But the nades, oh no, they've left one on the underneath. Those nades are huge. Oh, one player goes down fully, and there's 2 knocks on the back as well. Killer now last standing. Another one maybe putting the final nail in the coffin. That is a massive pickup for Aegon XI8. Killer gets an answer, but that could be disaster. Striking for DRS on the south side.
The Infinity really struggling, hobbling along this game, but still get 4 players back up and running and fairly healthy at this point as well. S2G only 4 eliminations on this game with really strong position, just haven't been able to get many shots down towards any teams, with DRS just picking up eliminations all over the place. And sure, there's only 1 player still alive, but still putting in the work, finding a shot over towards Team Queso here. Influence Kemen using this half Coliseum wall to actually keep themselves somewhat safe from the guys from S2G. Very good rotations coming through for Influence Kemen, and I would not be surprised to see another victory at Influence Kemen with the way they've been playing during this match.
It's all about choosing your moment now. For everyone who isn't S2G, for them it's about fending off the waves of everyone who's going to try and roll on up. At the moment, Reyes still out in the open. Papi Potro actually goes down instead. Reyes still alive for Team Queso. As Papi Potro leaves him alone. The Infinity being spotted. DRS. The difficulty now for Killer is to descend. Reyes down. 4 teams remain.
S2G a little bit on edge at the moment. Consistently missing these sprays, which honestly for S2G shouldn't be that hard. Influence Kemen certainly have to get rid of the Infinity in front of them. You've got a fair bit of cover, and again, this is what I'm talking about. It's spotty cover. You can move up in between it, get those defilades going for yourself. Hamzy G supporting a little bit, giving somewhat of some safety and help over towards Influence Kemen guys. Killer still going for DRS. A really good game for him to consistently be here without being spotted either.
That rock is so tempting in front of Killer, but as soon as you move there, they know you're there. That's a nade, that's 2 nades, you're gone. So it's a really difficult position for DRS's Lone Ranger to be in. Silas continuing to suppress the Infinity. Federal down behind the rock. Within nade range of S2G, Killer does finally fall there. Could not make that push. 3 teams remain.
Last circle here now. It's just start to push in. Razy runs out of bullets. Kayovsky moves out. UMP in hand. A lot of damage done, but it's not enough. But there is a nade coming over the top. That might be the opening that Influence Shemin were looking for. But Little Boy going down as well. This is all over at the moment. There's so much going on. Law gets up, but that is now Influence Kemin out in a very messy last engagement. Now it's S2G up to them to finish the fight.
They're trying to hold out on the top, and with the damage that was done to them, with Silas falling, that was the point that was looking out towards the Infinity. They've capitalized on this opportunity, and the circle will shrink to the outside of this church blank. They're going to have to leave. The Infinity in the foothills laying barbed traps for them as they want to step forwards. Look at that, trying to heal in the backside, but it looks like they might be fairly low on meds. I think they've got one or two still in the back pocket. Kelsey, the eagle eye from the top, playing on the eaves, trying to gargoyle and rain down from above onto the Infinity.
For anything they can, I think he assumes God Tony's in this position, which is pretty smart of them, but Newsy and Logan both pushed off on their own. Hamzy G makes an absolute break out of his own, still just running around, do-si-doing.
That was an open broadside, but
Oh my
Kelsey
God,
still from the
Kelsey!
top rope. 1 and 2 drops down, still alive. Lone Ranger, God Tiny now knocks that Hamzy. Will be able to find the knock onto Kelsey with just a tickle. Will lob the Molotov over, forces the fight close. Silas might feel the burn here, and underarm as well. Silas pushing forwards, wants to jump over, get that first knock. Kelsey low, but will find the knock, and the third goes through. S2G hold it out from the church. From the ruins, they dominated the battleground, and they will be able to find the chicken dinner.
You can tell these lads are relieved as well at the end of that game. Not a huge celebration, but certainly all eyes are on Kelsey right now. What an unreal finish